Good morning. We're doing these in the morning now. I have found this to be easier on my schedule and more effective for you guys as you get to see the video throughout your day. So this week, this week we're really focusing on perspective. We're focusing on this specific idea called black and white thinking. So what on earth is black and white thinking? This is what I call polarized thinking. It's on or off, all or nothing. It's all good, it's all bad. They completely love me or they completely hate me. Very binary ends of the spectrum. It's a way of thinking that tends to make the world very simple and very scary or very ideal. And one deals with the fantasy, and they're both fantasies. The world isn't wholly, terrible, and the world isn't wholly good, that kind of thing. So black and white thinking is also a product of the discard trauma. What's the discard trauma? The discard trauma is what we experience when we go through a relationship in which we are abandoned or thrown away, or we have to deal with what's called transactionalism, where we have to earn something from the other person by making them feel a certain way. Narcissistic codependent relationships are transactional. We're earning our sense of love, we're earning our sense of value, identity, or connection through those transactions. And a transaction can be anything. It can be making them feel better. It can be doing something nice for them. It could be getting them a gift. It could be not rocking the boat. It could be avoiding a conflict or giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's something that enables us to have a sense of influence or power over the other person so that they'll behave a certain way, so that we can feel a certain way. So that comes in with that discard trauma and what's called the consumer supply relationship. And black and white thinking tends to come into this because we're dealing with a very black and white relationship. Especially if we're dealing with a narcissistic or toxic person, they tend to think in very absolute terms as well. They're like, all right, you're the best thing ever. You complete my life. I've been looking for you all my life. The love bombing component of it is where they idealize us and then we idealize them. They're so special. They're so important. They complete me. They make me feel like I've never felt before. I've never felt this way with someone. There's a very big euphoria around the fantasy and around how it makes us feel. And this tends to put us in these black and white thinking paradigms. Further, when we go through this experience with a narcissistic person, they start to devalue us, and that's where we're the worst thing ever. We're never enough. We're too much. We're too sensitive. We're completely inadequate. We could never be. One of their biggest threats is, nobody will ever love you, that kind of thing. And this trains our brain to look at the world that way. We look at the world as I'm all lovable or I'm all hateable. I don't really have a mix of both. And this black and white thinking eliminates our ability to see reality. It keeps us stuck in a fantasy of things either being ideal or things being utterly terrible. And this does a couple of things to us emotionally. One, it terrorizes us, right? We get these big euphoric highs, and then we get these terrifying lows. And we really struggle to connect with our sense of well-being and our sense of reality. We don't get a chance to really understand what is going on. We can't really make effective judgment calls about people we allow into our lives. Instead, we have to deal with our fantasy, and so we idealize them. We inflate their good qualities, and we deflate or minimize their bad qualities. So black and white thinking is putting you in the path of danger. It's screwing up your ability to see healthy people, to see yourself realistically, to see other people realistically. It's putting undue stress, tension, and anxiety into your life because you're trying to either control or avoid something because of the way you're perceiving reality. We have got to work this out so that we can see what's called gray space. So the idea here with black and white thinking is the brain wants to protect itself, right? And so when we get into a very toxic environment, we're dealing with someone who is harmful to us or a threat to us, our brain's going to be triggered into one of 4 responses. We're going to get triggered into a fight response, a flee or run response, a freeze response. We're going to go into what's called fawning. Fawning is when our brain determines that it can negotiate with the other person and make ourselves appealing to them, make ourselves useful to them, right? And this also turns our brain into a binary system. Am I safe? Am I not? Am I safe? Am I not? We get very black and white about what's going on because the brain needs to be able to calculate the threat effectively, and complexity reduces its effectiveness to anticipate the threat. So it tries to make things very simple so that we can liberate ourselves from that threat and survive it. So this is basically the cause of black and white thinking. We're living in an environment that does not nurture what's called gray space thinking, where we have a variety of points of view and consideration. Our brain is in a state of fear, and it's working to protect us, so it puts us into that black and white spectrum to anticipate and handle the threat that we're dealing with. And 3, we're dealing with people who think in black and white, all or nothing terms. And so we never really get a chance to explore the world outside of that black and white spectrum. Now, healing from codependency, healing from narcissistic abuse requires us to do this. This is an essential step in reclaiming our power and basically taking our brain back from the abuse so that we can really be connected back with who we are and see things realistically, both ourselves, other people, and situations that we encounter. From there, we can make more effective decisions about our own happiness, about what we're going to tolerate, what we want, what we don't want. And most of all, it keeps us out of our fantasy. The codependent fantasy is the reason you keep going back to your narcissistic abuser. It's the reason you keep choosing the particular kinds of people you do. It's the reason you do not break free of your codependency. It's because you believe the world to be a certain way. And so your perspective, there's a term I've heard before that says whatever your projection is or your perception is, it becomes your reality, kind of thing. And there's some truth to that. If I see the world a certain way, then I'm going to respond to it a certain way through that interpretation, which is going to really hammer my ability to actually connect with reality. Now, if my perspective is open and broad and I'm curious, then yeah, I can connect with reality and learn from it. But if it's very narrow and black and white and absolute, then I'm going to have real trouble understanding what's going on. And I'm going to fail in my relationships, my happiness, my success, because I'm not actually connected to reality on its terms. Because we're in reality, right? So we kind of have to work with the way it works in order to get some advantage with it. Okay, guys? So working through black and white thinking is what I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's training. But today, what I want you to do is take this experiment and ask yourself this question: where am I looking at things in a all or nothing fashion? Where am I looking at someone or myself as all good or all bad? Or a situation is completely wrong or completely right? Start to identify and become illuminated to your own black and white thinking. And then tomorrow, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, to be cliche, on how to deal with that and how to move towards what's called gray space thinking. Okay, guys? Now, these trainings, this kind of insight, as part of my Codependency Confidence System, this is where I help you go through the 3 phases of healing. This is where we rediscover and reclaim our identity and our true sense of value. And then I lead you through eliminating your loneliness and your emptiness. You become reconnected back with yourself and others. And then I give you the skills that put you in control of your happiness. That's what Codependency Confidence accomplishes for you now. We're accepting applications for people to join us in this system so that you can break free of your codependency and actually have your freedom back, have your self back, have your confidence back, and get on with living your life. Because this is going beyond therapy, it's going beyond coping. It's actually about reclaiming your life so that you don't have to deal with therapy all the time. You don't have to deal with coping. Instead, you get to be happy, you get to be have power in your life, you get to have freedom again to be yourself. So if that's appealing to you, click the link above to join Codependency Confidence, and let me know what you guys think about this training, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. You guys have a great day. Thank you for showing up.